recording. There we go.
I would
Excellent.
move to adopt the agenda as presented. This is Alyssa Williams.
Thanks, Alyssa. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second. This is Laura Keys.
Okay, Laura second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of adopting the agenda with the change, please say aye or raise your hand or say aye in the chat.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay or raise your hand. All right, the agenda has been adopted. Are there any changes to the minutes for August 9th, our last meeting? Any changes, updates, corrections? All right, can I have a motion then to approve the minutes from the August 9th meeting?
Jenny from Market Heights, motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. And it looks like Rachel from Towanda also moves. So maybe Rachel can second and Jenny can propose. So we have a motion and a second. Thanks, Rachel. All in favor to accept or approve the minutes from the August 9th meeting, please say aye, raise your hand, or type in the chat.
Aye.
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 Right, we're seeing all the ayes. Any opposed? All right, looks like we have all ayes, so the minutes have been approved. So we had the committee notes. Are there any questions or discussions about any of those? And I'm not seeing any, but we can always go back if something does come up. Board of Directors report. Alyssa, do you want to speak on
Sure.
behalf of the board?
Sure can. You can see on the screen there that we accepted the audit. It was complete. We had a clean audit again. Thanks in part to the Rails financial team does a great job, and I know Kendall appreciates them a lot. We did review the budget and set fiscal year 25 fees at greater of 150 or 3% increase was what was recommended. So we did approve that. Kendall had news on the Rails LSEP grant, and we have spent a lot of time on a bunch of the documents you're going to see later in this meeting, reviewing those. And so the board has spent a lot of time during this interim working so that our independence project is on track. So I would like to thank board members for all the time that they have spent. And going back to committee notes, I do want to just mention that RSA Day registration is actually available on L2. We are filling out our schedule. So make a note if you want to close your library for 2024 to attend RSA Day. It's going to be a great time. That is all I have.
What's that date again for RSA Day?
March 20th, 2024 at 5 Points. And Washington Public Library, Washington District, Public Library District.
Excellent.
And I will just amend that while when I typed up these slides, I thought the grant was up 10K. It's actually down 10K because the grant was amended later in the year. And we got more money last year after the amendment in March. So the grant, we're getting 10K less than we were getting last year, which fits in line better with what I had expected.
Alyssa, did you say registration is open for RSA Day or just the date is posted?
It's on L2 and I believe people can register. So if you want to put we have some highlights of what the keynote is being finalized. So not all the information. But if you want to get an early start, because the first 200 people get free lunch. After that, you're on your own.
All right. I guess Mark Hatch is on for RSA delivery, updated delivery count information.
Rails delivery. RSA doesn't do delivery.
Oh, sorry, Rails delivery. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you, everyone. As much as my name is Mark Hatch, and I am the Director of Facilities and Delivery for Rails, and going to give a brief, delivery overview. I just wanted to do a couple of thank yous first. Thank Kendall for working these PowerPoint presentation for me, and then also I have to thank Robert Morgan. He's the manager of the East Peoria operation, and he does an outstanding job. And Robert is actually out on paternity leave. He's got a couple more weeks, so then he'll be back. But I just wanted to give a couple of shout outs there before we got started. I just wanted to go over this particular slide. Just see, these are the locations where our delivery hubs are located, and I'll also touch on the operations that's inside of each one of these. In our Bolingbrook, Cove Valley, East Peoria, and Natural Rockford. Starting off in Bolingbrook, we actually have two legacy systems within that operation, and that is the Geneva and the Sherwood are actually processed out of the Bolingbrook hub. Cove Valley is primarily prairie cat. Naturally, East Peoria is predominantly RSA. And Rockford is 100% prairie cat. Naturally, our corporate office is not on there, which is the Burr Ridge building. Two of these properties we actually own. We actually own the Cove Valley property and then also the Burr Ridge property. So those are the two properties that we own in the Rails umbrella. Next slide, please. These are some of our delivery stats, as an organization. And then I'm going to also break these down, for the East Peoria operation so that you'll see exactly what's occurring, under RSA's umbrella. We do a lot of stops. We do 117,000 stops. We drive over 1 million miles. So we go back to the stops, just for within the East Peoria operation, we do over 23,000 stops a year. Just for the RSA book of business. Our miles, we drive 1 million miles, annually. And within the East Peoria operation, we, almost 8,000 miles or 7,900 miles that we actually drive to service those libraries. And that comes out to about 392,000 miles that we put on just to service the libraries within the East Peoria area. Last year, and these are, like I say, the 2023 totals, we processed 7.6 million items. I'll touch a little bit more on that, just on the East Peoria side in one of the other slides. Our territory is 27,000 square miles, spread out over those 4 service centers that we just briefly touched on. We've got 40 team members along with 4 different managers that run the show. Within East Peoria, we're looking at 10 plus 1, so 10 staff members plus Robert Morgan as the manager. My overall budget is $3.5 million to run the delivery operation. That's not including the $574,000 that we get from Carly ILDS to run that book of business. This is just for the rail side, to manage the entire delivery operation. So that comes to about 46 cents an item since we're using 7.6 million. We equate that to about $30.39 per delivery stop. Next slide, please. Great. These are our delivery volumes, and I apologize, that it's really hard to see. So what I'll do is I'll just touch on just the East Peoria, like I mentioned earlier, for this last fiscal year. We actually processed 7.6 million items just within the East Peoria operation. In 22, we did 839,000 items. And then in 23, we did another 878,000 items. And that was processing 31,000 bins. So we do a lot of material, we move a lot of material. We do our best to try and turn this material around within 24 to 48 hours. We do our best to try and turn that around as quick as possible. Next slide, please. This is just a breakdown over showing the delivery counts since 2015. You can see where 9.4 million items back in 2015. Naturally, in 2020, we had the pandemic. We actually shut down and paused delivery for 3 months from March to June of that particular year. And we didn't require, in 21, we didn't require the delivery count that year because that was a flux year for everybody, just trying to recover. And if you notice in 22 and 23, we're looking at 7.7 million items that were processed that year. We also, within that time frame, came up with a different way of actually counting. So we think we have a more accurate way of counting, where prior to that, we were actually using averages. And we believe our averages were a little high. So these, we believe, are really true numbers. We're processing about 7.6, 7.7 million items on an annual basis for the last couple of years. And of that, East Peoria is doing about 10%, a little over 10%, 10.3% or something like that, that is processed within the East Peoria, operation. Next slide, please. I'm going to go kind of quick because I only got 10 minutes and I want to get yelled at. So feel free, this is interactive. If you like to ask a question, feel free. I can pause, I guess, and answer a question if need be. What this slide is just demonstrating the average items per bin. Overall, we're averaging about 28 items per bin. Within East Peoria, we're looking at overall 25 or 26 items per bin, which is good. That's actually been a consistent number. So if you look down the chart, that's pretty consistent number. So we like to maximize as many items in the bin as possible, but naturally, depending on the size of items and things of that nature, that is going to fluctuate. But overall, we're looking good overall. Great. Next slide, please. Great. One of the things that we started doing in July 1, we actually rolled out our use of iPads. The iPads is truly a game changer for us, primarily because everything we did before was on paper. We had lots of information, but it was all on paper in a box. So we weren't able really to utilize that data the way we really wanted to. So some of the things that's in this iPad, we start off, at the hub where you do a route pre-trip inspection. God forbid if you have an accident, that form is in there. And then all of the information that's related to the library is in here. So it's important that this information stays up to date. So if you have a key fob and a code and you change the code, it's important that you notify us right away so that we can update this information within the iPad. We also use this iPad to capture all of the data, all of the information that's the driver is dealing with. So he's going to capture his arrival time. He's going to capture the number of items that he delivered, number of bins. He's going to capture the number of items of empty containers that he dropped off, and also what he retrieved and the number of empty bins that he removed from the library. And then any special notes that he may have, And anything that is in the note field automatically emails the manager. So the manager is aware, so that either you notified the driver that the location will be closed on XYZ day. He could put that in the notes field. The manager will then actually get it. We actually, our preference is for you to put that type of information in the help desk. By putting it in the help desk, it's guaranteed to be updated because of the fact that more than just the manager is seeing that, also our admin that assists with delivery also sees it, as a backup as well. So this is truly a game changer for us, where we now have the ability to print reports, create reports off of all of that data that's been captured. And like I said, that we just didn't have the ability to do before. Great. Next slide, please. The delivery count. We just had a delivery count, October the 30th through November the 3rd. This count is only required 4 times a year, and it's the primary way that we actually get our delivery volume. So even though it's only 4 times a year for 1 week, we use that to tabulate the 50 weeks that we actually service. We do the 4 quarters because we get a blended number. So it's imperative that this count is actually done. And right after the count was done, I asked all of the managers to give me an update on how it went. And I hate to say it, but Robert, who came in actually just to make sure that the count went well, said it went terrible. And I hate to say that because of the fact that it's only 4 times a year, and we really truly need the library's participation to help us to get those annual numbers. But either libraries were not submitting their information. Robert had to constantly keep emailing and calling and things like that to get that information. And we still have a few that still have not provided that information. We've gone away from the paper. We've tried to simplify it to where that information can just be put right into our computer system. And one of the things that I have to also remind people is when they're putting the information in online, you're only putting the information in online on the day in which we're servicing your library. Prime example, if you get service on Tuesday, Friday, you don't have to put anything in on a Monday, nothing on a Wednesday and a Thursday, only on Tuesday and Friday. Because what we're trying to do is we want to account for the information or the items that are within that tub. So that's the biggest thing that I have to try and remind people. And so accuracy matters, which is so true because, like I say, that's how we base all of our information off of. So because of the fact that the libraries are putting the information directly into our system, we actually audit 25% of the libraries each count period. So it's important that those numbers match. If not, we're going to reach out and find out, well, why is there a discrepancy? So please ensure your staff is being as accurate as possible, when they're putting the information in, and then also if you can just remind staff to actually complete the audit. I'm sorry, not the audit, but complete the actual count itself, because it is so important for us. Great. Next slide, please. Great. Okay, so I also encourage everyone to go to our delivery webpage. It's got so much information out there. It is so much information out there. And that's just the railslibraries.org/delivery. And then you could see so much information that's involved with our delivery operation, how to look up items within L2, ordering delivery labels, how to utilize the help desk, even ILDS, printing the ILDS labels or things of that nature, But a couple of things here that I have to always remind people is also within there to receive emails from us. You have to go in and request to be a system delivery contact person. That is so important. And I encourage you to put more than one person out there because people take vacations. And if we have that person off doing, account week, or when we're sending out our notifications, they're not notified. They're not notified, or if someone is not monitoring their emails, so it's so important. It's so important to have multiple people out there, as a system delivery contact. That's the only way you're going to be able to receive the emails from us, because I can't automatically just send stuff to people, as the library has to be the one to say, send stuff to this person. So those instructions are also out there on our delivery webpage. So that's something that I encourage everyone to update and keep that updated whenever staff leaves, turns over, and so forth. One of the other things that is really cool that I think is so beneficial for the libraries is our frequency chart. Libraries can see what they're entitled to as far as delivery is concerned, by the volume. So if you're doing 250 items a week, you're automatically entitled to 5-day-a-week delivery. If you're doing 6 items a week, you may be set up under Van on Demand or something of that nature, or be partnered as a community delivery partnership where you're partnered with another larger library that's entitled to 5-day-a-week delivery. So these are all the things that are out there on our delivery webpage. So please take a look at them. It's a lot of good information, that's right at your fingertips.
Mark,
Next slide, please.
would it be accurate to say that the counts that the libraries submit when they're doing the quarterly delivery counts, that is what's used to figure out how many days a week of delivery a library gets?
Yes, it is. What we have to do is we have to make sure that there's a clear pattern. So we're going to go through multiple count periods before, because we want to make sure that that number is accurate. It's just not an influx for this particular time period. But if we see a consistent pattern of, the person is sending out, 5 bins a week or something, 5 bins a day or something like that, naturally we're going to look and say this person is probably entitled to more than 1-day-a-week delivery, 2-day-a-week delivery. But you will actually be able to see that as well. Because for a fact what you're sending out on a daily basis, and by having that chart out there, you can come back and say, hey, I'm going to put a ticket into the system where Robert will then see that and say, I think I'm entitled to more delivery for the last, 3 count periods. I've been sending out 250 items a day, and then we're going to look at that and investigate, and then we're going to say, you are correct. We need to increase your delivery from 2 days a week to 5 days a week and so forth. So it's beneficial. We utilize that for so many different reasons, not only for, to determine your frequency, but I also use all that data to determine my vehicle sizes, because my vehicles only hold a certain amount. So if I have a library that an average vehicle holds about 52 bins. So if I need to put a larger vehicle on that route, I get it from all that data that's being collected, that's being captured on a daily plus quarterly basis. So those count periods, and that's also the information that I have to send to the state library. So that's why I'm really, truly, begging people, please put your times, you're not your times, but put your volume in, so that I have to now justify my existence within the state library. Because they give us a lot of money. My budget, let's say, is $3.5 million, to process the entire delivery operation, to run the entire operation. So it's important that we have good, accurate information. And so far, this is the only way that we were able to do it. We're working with another group, the consortium managers group, and hopefully we'll be able to eliminate the delivery count altogether, which is what I would love to do. But we've got to have a process in place that everybody can do, regardless if you're part of a consortium, if you're a standalone, if you're non-automated, we need to have, and I have no problems with doing exceptions where the consortiums can do this. My standalones can probably do what the consortiums do. Within my standalone, I work on those separately. I don't mind doing the 80-20. If I can get 80% of the stuff automated, I can deal with the 20, not a problem. So, so those are some of the things, and like I say, thank you, Kendall. It is so important, that we have that information, because it goes in so many different directions that we use it for. So on this slide, this is also on our delivery webpage. These are the training videos that we created, to help the libraries out. So when you have a new person in, and you need to show them how to prepare the material for delivery. Boom, it's a 2-minute, 39-second video. We tried to stay within 2 to 4 minutes, not to bore people to death, and flip them with information. And so we just tried to create these videos just so that they would actually see, quick and easy how to actually, do a particular service. Prime example, delivery support. That is our help desk. It goes over actually how to do that. Member lookup, which is L2. Ordering labels, that's really important. Everybody needs their labels. So there's a video on how to do that, and then also how to populate that label. So these are good videos. Like I say, they're quick, between a minute and a half and 4 minutes, that you as the library staff, can utilize to train additional people. So great. Next slide, please. Speaking of labels, how about that? This slide was just added because of the fact that we seem to run into quite a few issues, when it comes to items being mislabeled, and my personal opinion on that is I truly believe people are probably kind of moving kind of fast, especially if you have a lot of items to work off of, and you're trying to look up the code. Sometimes you grab the code from the library below it, or the library above it, or the library on its side, and or you're working off of an extremely old list. It seems as if once lists are created, they're created for eternity. And that's not what we want, because of the fact that we update things periodically, and we try, and I know for a fact that's kind of communicated, to the library, said, hey, the information has been updated, so your old list is no longer valid. However, we still experience a lot of things. We see a lot of tickets where individuals will put in a ticket saying that I received an item for John Doe Library. It had my code on it. So I'm going to correct it and put it back in delivery. Two things just occurred, the patron is now being delayed, and then now that's work on both sides, on the library side, and then also on the rail side, because now we have to sort it a second time, so it's imperative that, the libraries take their time and fill these out correctly. We tried, 10 years ago, we had multiple different labels within the organization, and we knew we needed to simplify this process. So the one thing that we did was we made that label as simple as possible. And on that label is nothing more than the route, the to, the for, and the from, and notes. That's it. To try and keep it as simple as possible. Because, the more complicated things is, the more possibilities of things getting mixed up. So if you do receive a problem, an item that you didn't request, even though it has your code on it, but then when you look it up, oh, this should have gone to XYZ. If you have the ability, take a picture of it. Take a picture of it, send it back, correct the label, send it back, and then when we get it back and we see that ticket, what we'll do is we try and reach out to the offending library, to let them know that, hey, this item was, sent to the wrong library, and, just as an FYI, but we see that quite a bit. So, so that's why this slide was added and put in. But one of the things that, I wanted to talk briefly, Kendall, how much time do I have?
Another couple.
Okay, great. I'll talk really fast as I always do. Okay, a couple of other things that I just wanted to bring up because of the fact that this is a very manual process. We have to make sure that the legibility of the handwriting, is not a problem. We have people that like to be extremely fancy and put little hearts and things like that all over the label. That's sort of, that's cute, that's fine. But sometimes that actually affects and slows down the actual sorter because they have to now decipher, what this is actually trying to say. So if we could, just remind your staff to just put the code where it's going and nothing more, that would be great. We also want to remind individuals to when you're using rubber bands and you want to bundle items, we receive a lot of the flimsiest rubber bands that we've ever seen before in our lives, come through and they break all the time. And our requirement has always been, if there's two items bundled, both need to have a label. Both items need to have a label just because of that. Because once they break, we have no way of knowing where that item is going. So what we have to do is return that back to the owning library, which once again is going to delay that item actually getting to the patron. So it's important that that each one of the books or items has a label. And we also would appreciate if individuals would not make their own label. We need to stay standardized. I'm big on standardization. I was in East Peoria. I worked there for a couple of days, and while Robert was actually out, and I was just amazed at a lot of the things that were actually individuals making their own ILDS label and things of that nature, and that's a no-no. So once Robert comes back, we're going to sit down and we're going to go over some of those things and make sure that those are eliminated,
Mark,
and that those items will be returned. Yeah.
we have a question. Go ahead, Alyssa.
Thanks.
Yes.
So I understand the need for standardization and uniformity, but I'm also, looking at efficiency in the delivery process. And I really wish that like when our items go in delivery, the way they get there is a receipt prints out and says this item has to go in transit, and our labels are sticky and we stick that on the book. And I wish we could just write the delivery code on that so that I don't have to fill out I spend a lot of staff time filling out labels when I already have a label on an item, and I wish that could just be more efficient. But I understand I understand we shouldn't do that because you want uniformity in your labels. But is that something that could be explored further down the line? Like, I have a sticky printer, it's stuck on there. I just throw it in the bin. That would just save us so much staff time.
We have process on our webpage for that. So you can utilize your ILS, to print a computer generated label. That is allowed. The steps for that.
It doesn't work for our system.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay.
No, you can't modify the labels. It'd have to be a third-party solution that knew about all the things, and we looked at it before. It's just not workable.
Yeah, it's very
complicated. Just write the code on top. Seriously, it's.
Well, see, the thing is, your label has a lot of information out there. Your label has, and I'm sure it may have the patron's name, and it has a lot of other information.
It just has a library it's going to, and that it's it's for either a transit back or a hold.
Yeah.
That's all it's and the time. I mean, we don't have PII on those labels because you're not supposed to.
Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, we were trying to, we were actually trying to get a computer generated label because we actually hired a consultant, to work with us, to actually create this to where it would only be one label, but as Kendall just described, there were so many variances, even within a consortium, a library within a consortium, so it would have been where each library would have had to have a license, for the software. And we realized this was going to be so far, something that we wouldn't be able to support long-term, that we had to back away from it. And we put the instructions out on our website and said, if you have the bandwidth to actually utilize this, feel free. But I definitely understand, and I'm sorry that I have to stay consistent, across the board, because of the fact that, if I have different processes in all of my different locations, that's where it becomes a nightmare, so.
No,
But it's something
I
that we
understand.
can
I just
continue
wish
to
we
talk
could use
about, yeah.
technology to our advantage. I mean, because it seems
Yes,
silly.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
And I have a question
sorry,
too
go ahead.
about, is there any like user group or anything about delivery that that maybe we could have some kinds of conversations between members and the delivery staff about ideas, or maybe we can mash something up to make some of these ideas work as a group? Is that anything that can happen?
Oh, definitely. We can always, I would go through Kindle, to, probably help us put something like that together. That if you want to have we do focus group meetings all the time, to where we can get together and, from a delivery, perspective, and we can explain what our capabilities are, you can, provide your ideas. One of the things when we just completed the RFP a year ago, our consultant, Greg Pranovich, actually did quite a few focus groups, meetings, and we actually did get a list of things, from libraries that, we're hoping we can implement. So we looked into a lot of those things, if we were able to implement them across the board, we definitely did, And believe it or not, that is where on the bottom of the label, where it says the to hold or return came from. It came from that focus group, and that way, once the material gets back to the library, and instead of them focusing on the entire bin, they can just focus on the holds. So that was an idea that came from one of those focus group meetings. So we are definitely, open, to ideas. We really truly are. So we would love to do it. One of the other things, and I haven't talked to Robert about this yet, I want libraries to take tours of our operation. The reason I want libraries to take tours of the operation is because of the fact that I want them to see what we actually have to do, what we do on a daily basis, to process that material, how to turn it around, how we get through an item processed within 24 to 48 hours. It's a very coordinated effort, that has to take place in order for us to turn that stuff around. And we're a very manual system. We don't have a lot of automation into this because I just can't get the return on the investment, by automating it, even more, than what we're doing now. But I encourage, like I said, hopefully Robert won't be too upset, but we could set up, tours so that, the libraries can actually see, what actually goes on and how things are processed, what happens to that book from start to finish, which is a video I would like to create one day, by the way, as well. So where an item, from the pick list goes into the bin, goes to the truck, goes to the processing center, is sorted, is delivered at the next. I would like to show a video of that, as well. So that's just another thing that we'll be working on hopefully next year.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Alyssa, maybe some of these things could be incorporated in RSA Day too, just as a suggestion.
Well, we have invited Mark to come to RSA Day, so thanks for previewing that.
And I will be there.
Excellent.
Yes, I will be there. Thank you for the invite.
All right.
Thank you, Mark.
So at this point, are there any other questions that I can answer? I know I only had 10 minutes, so I apologize if I've gone over the 10 minutes. Excellent. No other questions. So thank you very much for inviting me. Appreciate
Thanks. Appreciate you coming out with us.
it. Anytime. Take care, everybody. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, so next on the agenda is the review and discussion of RSA independent documents. So we have some versions, intergovernmental agreement and RSA bylaws with government structure.
Yep. And I just kind of wanted to point out real quick, I moved this up in the agenda because we're talking about this stuff. The RSA independence page has copies of the 5 documents that were in the package today. If you scroll down this page, and those documents will stay there. When we update them and we have the next version, those will get posted as the next version, but the previous versions will be out on the website as well. So basically, this page is your one true source of news and or where we're at in the process. So I just wanted to kind of point it out here because it made more sense to do it here. And so where we are in the process, at this meeting, we had promised to give you the IGA, the intergovernmental agreement, the IGA, the bylaws, the government structure, the board layout, those types of things. And so we have done that. We are on schedule. And the first thing, the first document that we'd like to talk about is the draft intergovernmental agreement between RSA members. This is the document that everybody would need to sign by the end of June of 2024. This is a document that converts RSA from a 501c3 to an Illinois intergovernmental instrumentality, which is essentially a unit of government that's laid out in Article 4, you can read it, of the Illinois Constitution. And the other, except for Share, which is wholly owned and operated by Heartland, the other consortia inside of Rails, all of them are intergovernmental agreements, not not-for-profits like we are. Again, we chose to go with a not-for-profit in 2010, prior to the library system merger, because we could not figure out a way at that point in time to operate under the Open Meetings Act, because at the time, Users Group did all of the governance for RSA and had for years, and we had never really had a board, and that was not a concept that we were really ready to kick off at that time. And so had we decided to become an intergovernmental agreement in 2011, intergovernmental instrumentality in 2011, we would have needed to have 76 libraries in a room for every one of our meetings, which isn't going to happen. So now we've, it's been 13 years or something, and we are ready to move over to that. So signing the IGA is what actually creates the new converted RSA. And if you don't sign the IGA, you are not in the new RSA, which means I would have to turn you off on the 1st of July, which we don't want to do to anyone. So that's something we don't want to do. We have specifically added 2025 in with a minor fee increase, just as a carryover year for anyone who did think, maybe this is not for us. That gives you a year to get everything ready to move on out. And signing that IGA will signal that you approve not only the IGA, but the bylaws and the new fee structure that we'll be talking about at the February meeting. All right, oops, let me go back a slide. So let me put that IGA up. Now, honestly, did any of you read this document? Have any of you actually, other than the people on the board, has anyone actually read the document to have questions about it?
I read the first paragraph. Does that count?
that sort of counts. Honestly, the IGA is just basically saying, hey, this is a governmental entity that we are joining, assuming 51% of you sign it. And the new RSA assumes all of the liabilities, blah, 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 of the old RSA, and it has a board of directors, and the duties and obligations of the members pretty much match what's in the bylaws. Basically, it's pay your, come to meetings and pay your, pay your annual dues. Hold on, let's see what else we got in here. You can sue us if you want to sue us. We had a whole big go around on this. If you want to sue us, you can sue us. That's actually in the document where you would sue us at. That's going to be in here in beautiful Tazewell County. Of course, because this is a government and a document establishing a thing, there are the liability of RSA and the board members. There's a very short kind of termination and withdrawal section. Again, these are covered in more detail in the new bylaws. And basically that is it that's in here. It is quite an exciting read. I think all of you should sit down about 10:45 on a Tuesday night and start reading it. And you'll be asleep very quickly. But it's pretty straightforward and basic. There's nothing in here that's scary or like a big change to what RSA has always done. The only thing in here that could be is that if you don't pay your bills, we might assess you a penalty because we had to send you multiple invoices. And it says may, it doesn't say we will. Are there any questions about the IGA itself?
Kendall, may I ask?
You may ask anything you'd like.
What were some of the scenarios that were discussed as possibilities in the future that some people might want to sue over?
We don't have any. That's the thing, right? We've never been sued. I've looked back as far in the RSA records as I could get, which was like the mid 80s, and I have never seen anything in there saying that RSA could be sued. But if someone was going to sue us, we would want to have that happen in a place that would be convenient to us, right? To have to go to court or whatever. And honestly, East Peoria, where we are quote unquote headquartered, was the easiest place to do it. The original version of this was Cook County because that's where the lawyer is at, and it would have been easier for the lawyers if we'd have done it in Cook County. But the board felt that was anti-member to do it, which it is. But again, we're back to that. We've never been sued. We don't expect to be sued by a member. So. But it is something that is in all of these intergovernmental agreements. I've read all of the ones for all of the consortia in Illinois, and it's in every one of them. And for anybody who maybe don't have time to read it now, or you want to read it later, and then you maybe got some more questions, or honestly questions about anything, and we'll talk about it a little later. But we will be out visiting y'all the next 2 weeks, and we'd really like it if you would come out to one of our meetings and talk to us, even if it has nothing to do with any of this stuff. Otherwise, we'll be very bored and lonely. So, all right. Okay, well, since nobody has any questions about that, let's look at the bylaws. So if you did look at the bylaws and you knew what our old bylaws look like, which are still posted on the website, these are very different from our old bylaws. So this is kind of the document on how RSA runs. I rewrote these bylaws from scratch based on the Prairie Cat, Swan, and CCS bylaws, all three of which looked shockingly familiar. Clearly one party wrote it first and then the others copied off of it. And I thought, you know what, why reinvent the wheel? So I took the best bits of all three of them and then RSA-ified it a little bit. And that's what ours look like. These bylaws do a much better job of defining the board's duties, the governance and finance stuff, and enforcements of dispute type things than our previous bylaws did. It's easier to find information in them, and they're laid out better. And because the new RSA will have a board of directors that is a government OMA type group, and then one other subcommittee at the moment, the Directors Advisory Subcommittee. Those are the only two OMA Open Meetings Act have to have a quorum in person to meet governing bodies. Both of those bodies are written into the new bylaws. So let's pull those up. Did anyone read these? This maybe is a little more germane to your library. And it's okay to be honest and tell me no. I understand. Well, if you did or if you didn't, and again, we will have plenty of options to ask questions over the next 2 weeks. You'll see now that the way this is broken down is a lot cleaner than it used to be. We talk about the board, we talk about the officers of the board, we talk about financial matters, which is something that is still up in the air right now. This is one of the areas that we need to get very much clarified by our lawyer to make sure that we are setting this up correctly. So like this is a draft, but it's a pretty close to complete draft. Then we talk about the committees and my job, members and membership stuff, how you would terminate, and then our enforcement procedures. Those are actually written out so everyone will know what they are. I'm just going to go through here and point a couple things out. Well, you'll see it later, but the membership of the board is still 12 people, but how we get to those 12 people has changed. The current board is comprised of 10 elected board members serving a 3-year term and 2 members serving 2-year terms. That is the users group chair and vice chair. Those 2 positions are going away under the new RSA, but we're keeping the board at 12 members, and we're actually moving those to 4-year terms with a maximum of 2 4-year terms in a row plus a 6-month appointment is essentially what all of that means. And unfortunately, because it's Open Meetings Act and we are not Rails, we don't fall under any of the particular exemptions that Rails gets to use to have a meeting in multiple locations and have that count as a quorum. So we will have to meet in person. We have to have a minimum of 7 people in person to have a meeting. That makes a quorum. Once we have a quorum, those who are not there in person, we will be able to just speak the magic line and then approve that those people can take part in the meeting. And then the people who aren't at the meeting could then be on Zoom and fully participate. And because of that rule, part of the reason why we came up with the regions, which you'll see in a minute here, was to move those board meetings around RSA to make it easier and fairer for everyone serving on the board to get to all of these meetings. The other thing that we are trying to do is under Section 9 compensation here. Of course, we cannot compensate a person who is a board member. That would be very illegal. However, we think we may have found a loophole, and the lawyer is looking into it. And that is that we hope to be able to offer a $1,000 rebate to a library who has a member serving on the board of directors. And that would be taken off of your fees for the year after that year of service. So if you're a small library and your director is filling a role on the board, you would get a $1,000 rebate for every year that your director was on the RSA board. And we're hoping that this will help make service on the board a little more easier to swallow for small libraries, because we have to make sure that we have equal representation on the board. There is actually a board seat specifically for public libraries under 2,000 pop served. The other thing that we have to do is pay for gas and provide meals at each meeting. So that was, I figured it out, it's like $18,000 a year right now in gas money alone for all these meetings. So yeah, we are trying to make sure that we make it as neutral for those people serving on the board as humanly possible. Again, we talk about the officers. You'll notice the bit in yellow there under the treasurer. I'm trying to find out from the other consortia exactly how they do that. And then we will rewrite those if need be. Let's see if there's anything else in here that I was going to make sure that I wanted to talk about. Oh, Article 12 and 13 is enforcement procedures. That's how we, if the library is breaking the rules, that is kind of a spell out of how we would address that. And that's basically a combination of myself and members or the full board dealing with something. And then disputes between libraries. This is just basically a write-up of how we currently deal with disputes, but we've never actually written it down. So it's nice to have it written down. And that is basically come to us first. We'll try and intervene. If we can't, then the board gets involved. Board president, vice president, myself would get involved. And then if we still haven't fixed this dispute, then it goes to the full board. So that is all in there if you care to read about it. And that's basically the end of the bylaws. Anyone have any questions? I actually would read through those. I mean, this is how the new RSA is going to run, which is very much like the current RSA, except just all power is with the board.
So, Kendall, this is Laura Keys. I realize that my question might open up a whole nother can of worms, but I'm looking at, this document that you have in front of you, a few other documents that you've been circulating, and I do see RSA's street address labeled as Sabrina Drive, where you currently are. Is that going to remain like the quote unquote official street address?
So RSA is required to have an address. We have to have some place to send legal documents to and from. Also, our bank agreement requires us to have an address where we store our deposit machine. So we have to have an office that is lockable somewhere. And right now that is in our current building. And at least for the next, 18 months effectively, we cannot move out of the building because assuming everything goes to plan and RSA directly hires our staff on the 1st of July, 2025, up to the 30th of June, 2025, we are still Rails staff members and we have to work in a Rails staff facility. We have to use Rails staff provided or Rails provided computers and email and all of those types of things for OMA purposes, Freedom of Information Act purposes, and because we're Rails employees. So we have to work in a Rails facility using Rails stuff. So at least for a year and a half, yes, that will be our mailing address. We're attempting to figure out what we want to do with the building at this point. Do we want to keep the building but have a smaller footprint in the building? Rails would love to have us here. It's convenient for them to have us here. We don't have to pay for a delivery stop, which would be another $4,500 a year right now if we were not in this building. So it's convenient for that purpose. It's also, helpful for attending meetings and things like that through Zoom. So we're trying to figure out what we want to do. The board will tell me what the board wants to do and I'll make it happen because that's how we will operate. Any other questions today? Again, you have the opportunity to attend a meeting, get some cookies. I assume cookies, although it could be other treats. And yell at me in person.
Well, we're right at 2:00 right now. So if we want to take that 5-minute break, that would be the time to do it. 5 minutes. We'll be back at 2:05. All right, I'm showing that it is after 5 minutes, so let's go ahead and continue on. Kendall, do you want
Right.
to talk about good governance?
Yes. So I think one of the things that we have had not an issue with, but kind of just a general kind of lack of understanding of is who does what at what level in RSA. And it got it again, everything used to go through users group, and then users group kind of changed, and then we added a board of directors in, and then there was a kind of a differentiation of duties there. And then the 2018 bylaws basically put everything on the board of directors, but then said the board could push a lot of things down to users group. So what we wanted to do was actually type up a governance decision-making type of document to help clarify who's doing what and how things flow. So that's what we've done. And again, we've got governance bodies, just the two, the board and then the subcommittee of the Directors Advisory Committee. And then as an executive director, I'm part of governments. And then non-governmental will be the membership groups, however many we end up having. That would be circulation, cataloging, middle managers, whatever we need, right? Reports, RSA day. All those will be membership groups, and we will have email round robin set up for those. And we can also additionally do Zoom or in-person meetings. And every one of those membership groups will have a RSA staff liaison appointed to them to help ensure that the transfer of information from those groups, whether that's requests to do something like perhaps the board might task the CERT committee with coming up with proposed wording for a new policy or something like that. That RSA staff liaison would be the one who moves the information back and forth. So what you see here is the entirety of the governance decision-making breakout. It's just the high-level stuff. And it's broken down into the 4 areas there: the board of directors, the Directors Advisory Committee, which will have, I think, 4 or 5 appointed members plus 2 board members on it. And again, that's the director's direct line back to the board. Then the executive director and the membership groups, and again, via that staff liaison, moving the information back and forth. So, for example, like the executive director, supervision, employment, and compensation, that falls directly on the board. I might suggest some things, but it's up to the board to approve it and provide direction. Whereas the RSA staff, supervision, employment, and compensation is on me to make it that fit within the budget. And then the board not only will be informed about it, but can also, give me suggestions on what they would like to see. As you can see, like things like strategic planning or modifying bylaws or policies, those can kind of come from any level, right? It could be a membership group that might say, hey, there's a policy missing, or the policy is old and it doesn't quite account for how we want the new system to be, or how we want the system to be running, or hey, this is a policy and it's titled as a policy, but it's not actually a policy, it's just a procedure, and we need to make it not a policy anymore. So that could come from a membership group, that could come from RSA staff through me, that could come from the Directors Advisory Committee, but in almost all of those cases, it's going to be the board that approves it. And so you just go back down through here, and these are all kind of the big high level, if a thing's going to happen, how does it happen? That's page 1. And then page 2 is basically how do things in the system, whether it's in workflows, Symphony, or on your personal RSA CAT page versus the entire consortia's RSA CAT pages, how do those changes get made? So if your library decides that you want something different for you, i.e. you want to use a different item type, or you want to change your circ rules or your hold rules or whatever, right? The member library is the one who would approve that. And then it could be recommended by RSA staff. It could come as a direct request from the member library. And we would say, great, we can do that for you. But the member library is always the one who gets to say yes in the end, right? We don't just willy-nilly change the settings for your system without you telling us that that's okay. But when it comes to system-wide changes, i.e. all new item types for new materials, the project that we did a year and a half ago, that could come from a member library, that could come from a membership group, that could come from the board, that could come from RSA staff, that could come from the Directors Advisory Committee, any of those levels it could come from. And if there's like no change really needed to be made other than, minor tweaks that don't change the way the system works, or if it does, it's a very minor tweak, or it fixes a particular bug that we're having, right? RSA staff can approve it, but otherwise the board approves it, right? We don't want to just be changing the system because it's more convenient to us. That's going to have to go through the board. So anything that changes system operation, even if it doesn't have a member cost or a staff time component to it, the board, as long as it's not something super minor, is going to be asked to approve that. So that's basically what this page is saying. It helps. We don't want to put this in the bylaws because it's way too detailed for bylaws, but it's kind of an addendum to, not officially, but it's more of an informational type of thing that'll be out on the website to help people understand, oh, I want to do this thing. Here's the flow kind of overall for how that thing could happen. Does anybody have any questions about that? This has kind of been on my to-do list for a number of years. It just never got too done. All right. Let's talk about the RSA membership regions map. This is basically a final document. I don't think we're going to end up changing it in any way, shape, or form. The board spent a lot of time and multiple different mappings of how the library is laid out to come up with this one. But the reason for the regions map is for a couple things. Number one is for board representation. So we wanted to make sure that no matter what, board seats are spread around amongst the entirety of RSA. And so one way to do that is to break RSA up into 5 regions and then have each region have a representative on the board. Another thing is for board meeting locations, because again, we're in person, so we want to move those meetings around so it's convenient not only to board members, but to you as member libraries. You may want to come out and watch a board meeting, or if you want to present at a board meeting or ask the board questions, we will be moving the board meetings around. They're not just all going to be here in East Peoria by default. We are also going to be using it, and you'll see in a minute that we actually did use this for any of our in-person trainings or meetings. RSA, we're going to start, we know who's in each region. You guys will know as well. It's the map will be listed. But if we want to have a meeting or multiple meetings or multiple trainings, and we're trying to figure out where to have it, right? We might say, well, we were over on the east side of RSA before, so we're going to go over to the west side. So, does anybody in the west region want to host a meeting? So we can use these as areas to host meetings as well. So let's take a look at the map. Forgive my kindergarten coloring skills. I was using the absolute worst editor that I could use to still get this done. The regions are northern, central, eastern, southern, and western, because why have names that aren't descriptive? You can see above the map there, number of libraries and population for each region. Again, the board had lots of different versions of this map. We were trying to slice and dice these regions by county. We did it by county because it's just the easiest way to make a map, honestly. This was the version that was the most equal of all of the versions that we tried. Peoria and Tazewell County have a lot of libraries and a lot of population in them, and they mess things up. So we tried to work around that. You can see here by county how many libraries more or less are in here, what the total population is more or less, and then what region they were assigned to. And then out on the RSA website, there will also be a listing of each library in RSA and what region you're in, although you can pretty much look at the map and know that. For libraries that have branches in multiple counties and you may cross a region line, we used your main branch as the region where you would fall into. But again, if you are here in Tazewell County and there is a meeting here in Bloomington and you want to drive over to Bloomington to go to the meeting, that's fine. We don't care. We're just trying to use this from RSA's point of view of having meetings to spread these meetings around all over the system. Yes, Lexi's question was, so the regions were divided to make the populations as equal as possible. Yes, also, they needed to be contiguous as well. And we tried, the southern region is pretty big, but we were also trying to minimize for drive time as well. Like I said, this was not an easy project to do. This was the best we could do. Any questions about this? Lovely. Oh, I didn't need to go there yet. So let's talk about the board makeup. So I talked before about how there are still 12 libraries or 12 members of the board. We will have 2 at-large seats. Any member, any size, any type of library can fill an at-large seat. We'll have 5 regional seats. So 1 library from each of these regions will be a board member. And then we have membership categories. We have 5 seats for membership categories. So there's the school, academic, and special seat that we've always had. And then we adjusted our public library sizes to better break out how many people were in each level there. So using the new census numbers, public libraries under 2,000 pop served is a number of libraries, I think 30-ish. Hold on, I can tell you. Just a second. About RSA on our website. We adjusted these because they had gotten a little bit out of whack. All right, so there are 34 libraries, public libraries in the 1 to 2,000 pop served area. There are 25 libraries in the 2,000 to 4,000 population served. category. In the 4 to 10K area, there are 21 libraries, and there are 16 libraries above 10,000. So that's a much closer spread than we had before. Before we had a seat for 25,000 and more, and that was only 5 libraries, and so it was kind of hard to fill. That's the breakup of the board, kind of just where the seats come from. Also included in the package was the actual a board of directors makeup document. One of the things that we are needing to figure out is how we have the election, or if we have to have an election, or do we have to have a full election in June of this year. That's something that we're awaiting the lawyer to let us know about. Because we are forming as a new entity, we're not sure if we have to elect every seat on the board, or if we can carry over some members, or if it's all up in the air. So we're not sure about that yet. The first page of this document talks about who can be a member of the board. It has to be a member library director, or hold a supervisor level position and be nominated by your director, or a school academic or special librarian. 4-year terms, again, 2 terms max, plus a 6-month appointment at the end of someone's term. If somebody's been on the board for 3 years and they have to pull out for any reason, we would hold an election for the last year of their seat. We would only appoint somebody if it was 6 months or fewer. Again, we're up in the air on trying to have a rebate. We're not sure about that yet. And then this page is not only the breakout of the seats, but also when they are elected. So group 1 would be 2024, 2028, 2032, and so on. So you can see, if I'm the at-large number 1 seat, I would, that position opens up in 2025, and then I would, it would be reelected in 2029 or refilled, and then again in 2033. So again, we've got 4 groups, 4 years per seat, 1 election per year. The president, vice president serve 2-year terms. Well, all four of the officers have 2-year terms, and we rotate 2 officers being elected every year. So there's always some officer that has been an officer for more than a year. Any questions about any of that? You could have had like 60 people on the board, but that would make our quorum bigger. All right. Oh, I already talked about all of that. Look at that. I didn't even look at my slides. All right. And as previously discussed, we are doing in-person events. We are doing in-person events, 1 per region on that lovely region map that we just had. We are going to be at Chillicothe, Toulon, Normal, 4-Star, and Warren County Public Libraries. On the 14th, not in that order, by the way, 14th, 15th, 16th, 20th, and 21st. Look on L2 for those meetings. They kick off at 10 o'clock. And these are for you to come and grill us on anything independence related that you would like. Once we're done with the independence related grilling, then we will open it up to basically anything you want to talk about. There will be a board representative at each one of the meetings. Either myself or Anthony or both of us will be at the meetings, and a special guest star from amongst my staff at the meeting as well. We will provide snacks, which is why we're asking you to sign up, because we need to know how many snacks to buy. And I'm sure we will be doing more rounds of these probably in February or March, and then again in May or June. And Tony says he's going to post the sign up links again in just a moment. I will say right now the registrations are disappointing at best. I think the max we have signed up for Monday the 14th is 7, and that's as many people as we have signed up. So it's less of a fun networking event if there are not that many of you there. So take a look at those. There's one in your area. Feel free to cross boundary lines on that region's map. Honestly, we called somebody in every region just to try and spread the meetings out as much as we could with that initial round of volunteer libraries. So please come out and see us. And you will be bugged with several more listserv emails about it as well. Any questions about any of that? Good, I can shut up now.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and move on to the member services and system department updates. So, Anthony or James?
I think I will go first here.
Okay.
You have all probably seen the a lot of reports have been sent out for a while. So at first we had 3 reports sent to everybody. The first one was 2 years expired with no bills. The second one was 2 years expired with bills paid in full. And then the third one was 3 years expired with bills of 25 and under. The first 2 with no bills and bills paid in full came up to 53,599 users. As of today, we are down to 19,800 users. So that is quite a bit. Kendall and Anthony and all of RSA is very happy. So that is a huge amount of users gone. So very, 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 very happy about that. I know there's still some libraries out there that's working on them and waiting to hear back again. So very happy. We've done a huge amount of that. And again, we're still sending listservs out. There's some libraries that we know that sometimes don't get the emails, and they're sending them to me because, again, all these reports, it's very, very easy for me to do. I've talked with Anthony before when he was the director up at Dixon. Sometimes it could take hours, if not a day or two, to get rid of users. Just so you all know, it could take me 5 minutes to get rid of 10 users or 10,000 users. It doesn't matter. That's how long it takes me to get rid of the users for you. So when we send you the list, all we want you to do is look at it. If they look good, send it back to me. You can modify the list. You could delete or you could remove whatever users you want. We're not asking you to just look at it and send it back to you. You could just go ahead and, like, hey, I don't want to get rid of this user. That's up to you. These are just a list we're sending you to look at. You do not have to get rid of them all. So you can modify it, send it back to us if you want. You do not have to get rid of any of the users. These were just recommendations. We're just letting you know. So the 4th report just got sent out last week. That was 5 years expired with any amount. Of course, those ones are pretty much the lost items. So we know Kendall's smiling. So those ones probably more than likely, you're probably not going to ever see that money. But again, that's up to you. So again, we're going to keep sending out some reports periodically. If you want these reports in the future, we have these reports saved. So please ask us. We could send these to you. If for some reason you don't have these reports, again, just reach out to us. We could send these to you. One thing I do ask, if you're on here, please don't send us a ticket and saying, hey, go ahead and remove the users off report 1, 2, 3, or 4, because I don't have the reports, or I'm not going to run the reports and just remove them as a security thing. I will send them to you, and I want you to look at them and then send them back to me, because God forbid if I run the report and just delete them and then you're like, hey, why are all these users gone? I want you to look at them and then send them back to me and say, hey, the report looks good, please remove them. It's just a security thing, okay? I will never run a report and then just delete them for you. So, yes, everything, we're very, very happy. So, pat on the back from everybody. So again, Anthony, do you want to mention anything else about this?
No, I don't think I've got anything to add other than we're planning to send these reports now that we've got them written and it's all sort of now an internal procedure we can follow. We're looking to send these out about once every 6 months to help member libraries, keep up with their purging of expired users.
And just in case you're looking at that list and you're thinking to yourself, you know what, I know we've got a couple of people on this list that we want to keep in the system for whatever reason, you had soft banned them or hard banned them, or they're a problem user that you want to have in the system. So if they ever come in, staff have an idea of what's going on with them. So if you want us to, we can send you a list of the staff notes and the item IDs for any of those 4 lists that you may wish. We didn't want to just send the staff notes out willy-nilly, because there are things in staff notes that, maybe we don't want just floating around the internet. But if you personally, if you want a list, we will send you a list of, say, hey, can I have the staff notes for everybody in group 4? And basically that report will be a user ID and the staff notes. And you can read through the staff notes and go, oh, that's a user ID we want to keep in the system. And then you just go look them up, do a control F find on the Excel spreadsheet. And then you just delete that row out of the spreadsheet and we'll leave them in the system for you. So that is something we can do for you as well.
Yep. And the main reason you all knew about this probably a few months ago. This was part of our user theme. One of our first projects, part of this was to get rid of a lot of the expired users to move on to our next one because of duplicate users, for instance. Well, clearly this, I don't remember what you said, Anthony, that what this already cleared up.
Yeah. The last time I looked, it had removed about, Sarah ran the reports for me, and it had removed about 1,100 duplicate users. I know you've deleted quite a few more expired users, so I'm sure that number has changed and improved.
So yeah, so by doing this expired, it's already helped on the duplicates. So that will be one of our next steps now is doing that. So so yes. So anyway, pat on the back. This has been a huge process, but it's been very effective. So thank you very much. So, and again, if you need the reports, please send in a ticket. Call us. We're happy to send them to you and keep working on this. And we will be moving on with the next project. So just want to let everyone know. Thank you.
So, Kendall, before I just pick up on this slide, Laurie had asked a question in the chat that I wanted to make sure got picked up on before we get too much deeper. She asked if members will receive information on the new fee structure in February. She has to approve her have her budget approved at her March board meeting. And so she was hoping to have that information by then.
So yeah, Lori, send me an email. I can tell you what your FY25 RSA invoice will be now. It will be it'll be the greater of $150 or 3% increase for FY25. The new fee structure that we're working on goes into effect for FY26, which is some amount of years away, a number of years away. What is this, FY24? So we have a whole year of the $150 or 3% before we get to that new fee structure. So we intentionally left it alone mostly this year. So if you send me an email, well, if anybody sends me an email and says, hey, what are my FY25 RSA fees going to be, I can send you a listing right now. That would be what your RSA fee is. If you're a non-RSA library, what that 10% writer is, and that type of thing. So.
Thanks, Kendall. I just want to make sure that didn't get buried in the comments. So did anyone have any questions on the member services report for the meeting? If not, that's going to make my life really easy. One thing I did mention in that report was that staff on the member services team have completed visits at 14 member libraries. It's actually, since time of writing, gone up to 17, which is kind of nice. So with that in mind, the team is engaged in setting up lots of visits. And if you would like us to come to you and visit, let us know. You can do that by emailing the help desk. And if you have some sense of what kinds of topics you want raised, we can send the staff member best equipped to help you with those specific issues. And we're looking to try and visit all members every 2 years, which is pretty ambitious. I mean, that means that we would be doing 70 visits a year, but we're up for it. And so if you want us to come see you, drop us an email and we'll do our best to set something up pretty quickly.
You can also request a visit off the website. Up in the menu bar, there's one labeled Get in Touch. And if you click on Get in, or put your mouse over Get in Touch, there is a visit request form. And that could be a virtual or an in-person visit. And it's got some date widgets that you can pick dates that work good for you. And then we can get with you and help get that thing scheduled. So you can open a help desk ticket or you can use that form. Either one will work.
And then
oh yeah, I'll get these too. I'll
Thank
get
you.
these. Yeah. So RSA Cat got updated on October 21st. We had a couple of really kind of odd bugs that we ended up having to run down that didn't affect everybody, but did affect some people. So we've got most of those worked out now. It changed the layout of the pages a little bit. They're a little bit cleaner now. So we don't expect many more updates. Cersei Dynex is kind of in the process of designing a whole new discovery catalog. And so they're basically switching their work over to that. And we have been beta testing the newest version of workflows over the last 2 months. And I expect that we will be updating workflows and Symphony in the December-January timeframe. While we did beta test it, we never find everything. So we will let some other consortia take the arrows on that. And then once you get the all clear from whoever's running it that no, they didn't break anything major, then we will schedule an update. So there is an update to workflows inbound. And along with that update will be some additional methods for offsite, getting into the system from offsite locations. And we will talk about those once we have done that update. So it may make your life a little bit easier in not having to have AnyConnect set up on a laptop so that you can go out and visit the local grocery store or whatever.
All right, are we on cataloging department? So Erica?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm hoping you can hear me okay. I first thought I would ask if anyone has any questions about the written report. There was quite a bit in there. We have been busy the past few months. Just a few things I wanted to note that are on the slide there. We did finally partner with the Cataloging Maintenance Center. You might have seen an update on our listserv in early October. They have gotten started on the backlog of cataloging requests. They've processed just over 200 so far. There's about 4,400 left. So they're going to be working through it slowly but surely. They have a few other cleanup projects that they're doing for other shared catalogs in Illinois. So they've just added us into the mix. We did want to talk about, I know this project has been a long time coming, and I do appreciate everybody being patient with us, but we do want to get started with annual magazine records by the end of this month. What that means is for magazines that have more than 800 issues attached to them in workflows, I've listed the specific titles on page 3 of the cataloging update report. But with these annual records, there'll be a record for each year of that magazine, starting with 2024. So that's going to make it much easier to attach your issues for popular magazines such as People, Time, Better Homes and Gardens. I know right now there's kind of a convoluted workaround to get those issues put in, so we recognize that's a huge problem, and we want to get these annual records up and running. The records themselves are in workflows, so if you search for People 2024, you'll find the record. I'm finishing the documentation that goes with this project, so don't start using those records yet, but watch the listserv for an announcement once those records are ready. Any questions about that? Okay. The other thing I wanted to touch on that's on the slide there, we have had some trouble lately with how TV series and other multi-disc items are being cataloged. There's essentially 3 different ways you can do this. Our recommendation is that you assign a multi-disc item. Maybe it's, like I said, a TV series, or maybe it's a movie with different titles in it. Assign it one item ID for the whole set and put it on a bibliographic record that describes that whole set. That's our preferred method. If your library wants to split up the set and catalog separate discs from the set with their own item IDs, they really should be on separate bibliographic records that describe that particular disc. I know, Beth, your library does a good job doing this, where it clearly indicates in the title of the record that it's disc 1, disc 2, etc. We know, though, that some libraries haven't been using the separate record approach. And if that's the case, if you're splitting your discs up and they're on the record that describes all of the discs, you need to be using what's called a Pipe Z analytic in the call number. I put more specifics in the cataloging update report, but that Pipe Z is important because it gives a drop-down menu in the RSA CAT so that the patron can pick which specific disc they want to place the hold on. If the Pipe Z isn't there, the patron gets whatever fills the hold first, and most likely that will not be the disc that they were hoping for. And we know that that results in a lot of frustration for both the patron and for library staff. If cataloging staff at your library have questions about these, or you want to think about maybe if you have been doing Pipe Zs and you're thinking maybe you want to put those on separate records that describe the specific discs, reach out to us and we can help you get a report of those items and talk about how you can get those recataloged. There was quite a bit more in that cataloging update report, but I thought I would just touch on highlights there. And I know we've only got about 15 minutes left in this meeting too, so I wanted to be mindful of the time. Does anybody have any questions about those topics? Okay, thank you.
Thanks. And we'll go into administrative updates. Kendall?
I had to unmute. Staffing updates. I've been here a long time. Rhonda's been here a long time. Doug's been here a moderately long time. Those are our staffing updates. Membership updates. We're very excited that Farmer City is finished upgrading. They were a unionless library. They are now live. They are circulating. They are filling holds. Wonderful, wonderful. On the less exciting side, Peoria Notre Dame High School cut their library out of their operation, I guess. And so they have officially pulled out of Rails and RSA last month, which is too bad. Maureen there had been a staunch supporter of RSA and had been on our board. They get a new principal and a new diocese superintendent person, and then the library is gone. So unfortunately, that's sometimes how schools work. We had that happen about 10 years ago. A school pulled out of RSA. 2 years later, they had a new superintendent who built a new library and rejoined RSA. So it just depends on who's at the school and what they value. Same thing with Southeastern CUSD high school and junior high. They pulled out of RSA as of the 1st of July, and the librarian there was not sure how they were going to check books out, but she had no say in that. So they are no longer members as well. They have been removed from the membership list and all of that. I think I've also removed them off of the RSA specific delivery list that has all the codes and the two, if you're a sub-library, 2 subcodes. But I don't think you'll see any requests from them. But if you find a book that belongs to one of those, throw it in the blue bin and send it back to them. All right, we're going to talk real quick about the draft 2025 budget. It's hard to make a budget when I don't know what 50% of the income is. And basically, we were finished talking about the budget at the board meeting before we got the official grant notification from Rails. So the figures in this budget are subject to change, not only for that reason, but also because in FY25, we assume we're going to be a III, and there are very different accounting standards for not-for-profits and government agencies, some of which make absolutely no sense and are going to require some fairly major work on the kind of layout and display of the budget. Every year there's something new in one of the budget or the accounting standards that makes my hair fall out, and I have to completely rework the budget every year. We are now changing accounting standards, and there are new things. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to have to rewrite much of the budget later this year and early next year. On the plus side, we are now the same as everybody else within Rails that Rails finance supports. So it's one less thing that they have to worry about knowing the standards for, because now we're going to be the same as Rails and PrairieCat, who they also do the budgeting for. A big change for me and a big way to think about things is that the RSA budget as a governmental agency is a public document. So it will be posted on the website. And so what I'm going to show you here is what the OMA requirements for a document posted on your website, your official budget posted on the website looks like. And again, some of these figures are going to change. The GL callouts will be different on the expenses side of the board here, because some of these will change because of our change in accounting standards. But essentially, we are $269,000 in the red. We have a lot of money set aside for various independence things. So we're not, we'll probably end up not being in the red at all. We'll probably end up being in the black. We generally are every year. You'll notice there is no grant money shown on the income side. And that is because the $836,000 in grant money that we get as a government entity is not required to be in our budget. So it's not in there. So, you plus up this $1,040,000 that comes from members with the $836,000, and you're getting much closer to our actual income. But that is not required to be shown publicly. The amount of money that we pay Rails for services over the grant, so that is personnel, the building, all of our software, all of our hardware, the internet, the vehicles, insurance, utilities, HR support, finance support, you name it, all of that stuff is accounted down to the penny. We know exactly how much that stuff costs RSA. And how Rails operates is they take all of the grant money out, and then whatever's over that grant money is they charge us and they ask us for a check. That is currently in line. GL 5460, contractual agreements with systems for expenses over grant, $392,000 we will be paying Rails next year for staff, personnel, and all those other functions. And then you can see all the other things here. Consulting, that's about $100,000 more than it normally is. Again, that's all for the next couple of years for independence things this year. Staff, getting all of our ducks in a row to hire staff next year. We'll have more money in the budget for that. So other contractual services is basically the operational costs of RSA. That's our Cersei Dynex budget. Our budget for Mail, Chimp, and all the other kind of tools that we use are basically anything not given to us by Rails are in that line. Are there any questions about the documents? Oh, Greg asked a question. Are we accepting new libraries? Greg asked that question a while ago. Currently, no, because I cannot tell a new library how much it costs to be an RSA. We will, once the FY26 through 29 fee structure has been finalized, and I can tell a library how many, how big's your library, how many people do you have, how many items, what's your circs, what's your pop serve, whatever. We can just put that into a formula and tell a library how much it will cost to join RSA. Then we'll talk about adding new members. And I know that we have, for example, your grade school and or entire school district was potentially thinking about joining. We have a couple of other libraries around RSA in our service area that are not currently members. The few that are left, a couple of those have also expressed interest. So I will be reaching out to those libraries next year once all of that fee structure stuff for 2026 through 2029 is done. Any budget specific questions? Yeah, like I said, this will have to be posted on our website, which in some ways hurts my ability to negotiate with vendors. But I don't have to show the grant amount, so it still looks like we're way under budget, or we're way underfunded. So I can still cry that we're poor and we need a better price from all of our vendors, which is why it takes forever to negotiate a price on something, because I just say no until they give in and give us what we want. And once again, the fee structure that we're talking about implementing is for FY26 through FY29. We still have FY25, that is next year. And fees are going up the 3% or $150. So if you're a basic online library, that would make you $1,900 a year. If you're a basic online with a branch, it'd be $2,513. The minimum full online cost is $3,080. If you are one of the non-OCLC libraries, you just add 10% to that. And if you have any other questions or you want to know you don't fall into one of those three that I broke out, just send an email to the help desk and I will tell you what your FY25 fee will be. I yield the remain of my time back to our glorious leader.
All right, I just wanted to remind everybody that our next upcoming users group meeting is the February 8th, 2024 date. It's a second Thursday. It's at 1 o'clock. It'll be on Zoom. So as you know, the board has been working on lots of different things. So we'll continue to do that and we'll have more information for you at that meeting. Again, if you would like to attend any of the regional in-person Independence Update question and answer sessions, there's 5 of them and Tony has posted them in the chat line, or you can go to the RSA Independence page on the support site and see that information there, as well as all of the documents that we have gotten together so far. Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up, discuss? It does not look
I
like
have,
it. Oh, go ahead.
sorry, Beth, I have something.
Okay.
So, this is Laura, everyone. So, I was chatting with some of the people who help edit the ILA Reporter magazine. For many of you do read that because either you or your library is a member of the Illinois Library Association. And a topic for a future article was brought up, and I would love to get some feedback from people if you feel like sending me an email. The topic is, I didn't learn this in library school. And it's not just the some things that we might harp about, dealing with difficult boards, dealing with difficult patrons. The example that I gave that they might use in the article is, in my first 6 months of working in Dunlap, I found myself hand sewing up a frog puppet that had burst its seam, because someone's just got to do it. And so if anyone has any of those stories, I didn't learn this in library school, but this is what I got to do. Please consider emailing them to me, and that would be great. So, okay, Anthony, that's a story. I mean, really, that's a story. So everyone send me an email. That would be great. It would be great to hear your stories. Especially the non-contentious board meeting stories. Oh, thank you, Patty. Yes, my email is director@dunlaplibrary.org, or of course I'm listed on L2. Laura Keys, the only one listed on L2. So thank you for your time. Thank you for giving me the time, Beth.
Thanks, Laura. And another thing about ILA, the next conference is coming back up to Peoria. So if you haven't attended a conference for a while, this would be a great opportunity if you're close enough in to attend, and also to be a presenter. I noticed that a lot of the sessions that I went to for the Springfield were done by very large libraries, and a lot of those things were not very scalable. So appreciate input to be able to tell everybody, remind everybody that it's very helpful to go to a conference and see other like libraries.
I will echo that, Beth. That's a wonderful idea. And for so many of you attending the meeting today who are kind of small libraries, which most of us can say that we are small libraries, I also highly recommend that you consider putting a proposal in to speak at next year's ILA conference. If you think that your idea is only half-baked, then just reach out to some other directors and see if they have a half-baked idea. And then together, it'll be a fully baked idea. It'll be great.
Well, thanks everyone, and I hope to see you at some of the regional meetings. So, bye.